Hello, my beautiful, wonderful healing community. It's Salenna Green here, and this is the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. This is a really special episode. It means a lot to me. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of my personal life missions, my personal life goals with today's episode. And I am joined by two very special, inspiring to me personally bad bitches if you ever see them on the street. It's a privilege type people. So I'm really happy to introduce today's episode, which is Building Generational Wealth. As I said, this is the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. This is a place where we discuss various topics and how they relate to healing. I, your host, Salenna Green, am filming here from Seattle. There are Black people here. We do a lot, so get into it. My two wonderful guests today are also local to the Seattle area. There's a lot of entrepreneurship here. There are a lot of Black people with personal missions, building empires, building interventions and resources for their communities here. And the two people I'm about to introduce are two people doing those things. So one is Jinji, the other is Marissa. I'm going to turn it over to y'all to introduce yourselves. But y'all, I'm so excited about these people and about this episode. So ladies, please introduce yourselves. And today we're going to talk about building generational wealth.
Yes. I'm Marissa Green. I'm a real estate agent here in Washington State.
And thank you.
That's all you need to know.
That's it.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Salenna, by the way. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Jinji. I am an active community member, creative, and financial service professional.
Yeah. So, right, like immediately you get why this is a relevant conversation for them. Hopefully, if you've been listening before, you get why it's a relevant conversation for me. But if not, I will say that I am also a business owner. I am a community activist, a community leader. I wouldn't say like I'm an activist as if you see me like, with a picket sign all the time. But I will say I'm an activist in that you will see me advocating for my community. Absolutely, all the time. You will see me speaking up for my community. You will see me speaking against systems, individuals, or situations that don't serve my community. And I am someone who is also a healer, and that means a lot to me as well. When it comes to building generational wealth, I will be doing so, with a focus on healing and with a focus on my community. And that's how this conversation matters to me. So let's get right into building generational wealth. What does that even mean to y'all? Like when you hear someone say building generational wealth, why is it exciting to you?
Yes, you can go ahead, Jinji.
Jinji, you froze?
It looks like there's some reconnecting happening.
I think we froze for a second.
I think so too,
Yeah. But yeah, I was just asking Jinji, what does building generational wealth mean to you? What does the concept mean to you, and why does it excite you?
Well, I am constantly excited by the idea of building generational and intergenerational, I like to use that term, wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of that term, it's more than just in a monetary sense, but it's in which the monetary is a very big part of it. And that comes with education surrounding financial literacy and passing that down at an early age to our young folks, to next generations. But also it comes to our teachings, our practices. How did our ancestors do things? What of that can we take, utilize, and then how can we use that to serve our community and our households? So when I think of building generational wealth, I think of legacy, and I think that part of that is passing on our stories as well. So financial literacy and our story, the story of who we are, builds generational wealth.
Ashe.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I feel like building generational wealth means setting your descendants up to not have to struggle financially. It's definitely that part of the wealth of education, the wealth of, storytelling, the wealth of information, but also like that wealth of just allowing them to be able to explore, to be able to learn and grow and live their life without the financial burdens that you see placed on people. Like for me specifically, as it relates to real estate, right? Like building generational wealth is you already have a home or, other homes, several homes where your descendants or your child more specifically and their child doesn't have to worry about where they'll live because there's already this family home, or other investment properties, so there's already income. Just ways that you're taking away that struggle, almost like curing that generational curse, that could be a thing of poverty, especially for Black folks, because real estate and home ownership has been something that has been kept and gate kept really heavily from our community. So building generational wealth through that is like a very specific way of, breaking generational curses.
I love the like storytelling aspect and the care that is like inherent to y'all's concepts of generational wealth. And I honestly feel like that's a thing too, because there's a difference between having a rich person in your family at one point and having generational wealth that makes a difference for people who come after that person. And a lot of that actually is attached to mindset. As you said, Jinji, teaching the kids when they're young. And as you were saying, Marissa, removing barriers that kids are facing and being set back in elementary school, before they're born, some of the things that they're predestined to encounter, like jail, or things that they're predestined to have available to them, like a college education. Some of those things, right as they're born. And in some places in the world, it's like, and I hear this because I used to work in early childhood education. So I have a background of over 10 years working with children. And so it's the preschool they go to. What preschool your kid goes to sets them up for the elementary school, which sets them up for the middle school, the high school, and then the college that they go to. So when we're talking about building generational wealth, we really are talking about what's going to make the difference for your kid and your kid's kid. Should you?
Yeah, passing down assets.
Yeah, that's a big part of the teachings and the way that I look to give back to the community is making sure that there's that information and implementation of the ways to actively pass down assets. Yeah.
And I love that mindset shift because, we have people shaming each other on Twitter for moving back in with your parents or things like that.
Right.
So when we're talking about that shift to generational wealth and what that wealth building can look like, yeah. Sometimes it looks like having a place where you can go as a young adult where you don't have to pay rent.
Exactly.
That's generational wealth.
I think that's actually a really interesting addition or perspective that you bring up, Salenna, about folks. I haven't been on Twitter in a while, but since the transition, I've since left Twitter, but the people shaming folks on Twitter for living with their parents, I think that the idea of that is it's very like the American dream or an Americanized concept that as soon as you turn 18, you need to get out of your parents' home, where in a lot of Mediterranean and a lot of Hispanic and Latinx households and other cultural households, it's been tradition that we live as a community, and that maybe we're not necessarily in the same exact unit, but we're just down the street, or we're still actively participating in our intergenerational household. It's not, okay, me, myself, and I. It's we succeed together, and you took care of me all my life. Now I'm taking care of you, and we've set each other up with the tools that we need so that you can, on this last leg of your life, be secure and relax. And I don't have to feel ashamed of living with my grandparents or my parents, because there's nothing wrong with that. They're family. If the, of course, if the unit is healthy and it's intentional. And I think that's a very, yeah, I think that that's a very American concept that isn't necessarily the healthiest thing for our society.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. I also kind of want to expand on that a little bit, just because, like, being able to move into your parents' house is such a blessing that I think that people do not realize. Having that home base where you can always, actually just saw, speaking of Twitter, someone on Twitter that was saying they were paying rent to their landlord, who apparently wasn't paying their mortgage for months, right? And next thing they know, they're getting a knock on the door by the sheriff saying that there's an order for them to leave. They have to move out. They're being evicted. And the only thing that stopped them from being homeless through that displacement was the fact that they had a parent that owned a home with several rooms, so they could just move into one of those rooms in the home that their parent had. Like, it's a huge blessing to even be able to have that safety net. So I also noticed, like, part of US culture is kind of pretense, which is where, you know, that comes from, where it's like, oh, if you're living multi-generationally, you know, you guys must be poor or you must not have it, when really that's actually a wealth building tactic. We all are multi-generational in this home, and then we're saving money because, you know, we have less household expenses, and that allows us to have more money towards building more assets. And so it's kind of like the keeping up with the Joneses kind of mindset. You know what I mean? That I think is actually part of US culture, where if you are the pretense of it all, right? Like, let's pretend like we have it all together. We don't have to live with our parents. We don't, you know what I mean? And it really isn't sustainable. And in fact, now I think that even with home ownership, we're starting, and not that it hasn't been a thing, but just multi-generational with even buying homes is something that, like, it helps bridge the gap. It helps reduce the barriers for someone where individually they might not be able to make that purchase, but as they group together, they can make that purchase, and it's sustainable, and it actually helps them in the long run too.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I feel like we're already talking about how generational wealth and building it can look like so many different things, and how sometimes, and I want to even say maybe a lot of the times, given how US culture is set up right now, it doesn't look like what you would think it looks like to be building generational wealth. And I will also say that when it comes to building generational wealth, it doesn't have to just be like with your family. There are a lot of friend groups that are going in together to build generational wealth and set things up. People are trying to establish whole little communities for themselves. There are conferences around things like this. I actually recently attended a Black developers conference, and there were some amazing conversations being had there, and actual meetings are taking place since, so that people can really connect in the Black community across fields for our community. These are the kind of things that are also going to build generational wealth in a way that makes substantial change for our community, because again, it's not just Black people with money. There's Black people with money already, actually, a lot of them. We even have billionaires that are Black. But when we're talking about building generational wealth, we're talking about a certain mindset. And I really like that y'all both, when you're talking about your own understandings, there was already a part where there's a mindset shift that needs to happen largely for us to be able to do these things. Again, we already kind of talked about it, but I want us to expand on why is building generational wealth so important, specifically for the Black community, specifically for people who have experienced poverty, for people who, maybe are one generation out. Like, what does it look like to build generational wealth, and why is it so important for us?
Mhm. Many individuals in our community are first gen to opportunity. While I absolutely agree that there is, and there are a lot of individuals that have already been practicing this in the Black and Brown community. They are already actively participating in intergenerational wealth and education. I think that it's very important that we continue to do this work because it changes the narrative. Beyond just changing the narrative for external folks looking from the outside in, it allows us to change the narrative within ourselves, especially if we have experienced poverty, if we have experienced displacement, or shattered homes, or different family dynamics and whatnot. There's a way to come back from that. And I really like that you mentioned that that doesn't have to be, chosen family is huge. So it doesn't have to be just your immediate family. Not everybody has a family. If you can do it with your family, that's fantastic. If you can do it with your friends, your chosen family, business partners, there are so many ways to create it and experience it. And I think that every single person on this earth deserves the opportunity to experience that, especially with the past that black and brown folks have experienced. It's time. Just point blank period. It's so important for our healing. So
Yes.
because a lot of us are the cycle breakers in our families, it feels like a huge amount of turbulence, but on the other side of it, you're setting up the rest of your bloodline, the rest of whatever lineages that you're touching, for so much success.
Yes. And it can be scary. Like, I want to point that out. Like, when I'm talking about building generational wealth, it looks different for me than what it looks like for Jinji, than what it looks like for Marissa. Please don't think that we're trying to tell you you need to raise $1 million and then you can start your path to building generational wealth. Like, you don't need to, like, I'm not trying to present you a blueprint. Let me say that. What I'm trying to say is, in my experience, even the thought of building generational wealth, when I first thought, I want to build something for my family. I want to build something for myself and for my community. Because I never wanted to really have kids. So when I was thinking about generational wealth, now look, the way my hormones are set up now that I'm 30, your hormones will have you thinking about it. But look, I was never trying to have kids before. So I was never building generational wealth for my direct descendant. I was always building it for my people, for my babies, my nieces and nephews, my community, um, my foster kids one day that I may have. Who knows? We'll see. But what I was thinking was, I want to do something different than what I've directly seen and what I've heard people say and the actions that I've seen them take around money. The relationship I've seen the adults around me have with money is one that I don't want to have with money. That's what I thought. And then changing that was actually scary. I thought, well, what relationship can I have? How do I actually take those steps? How do I think differently about money? And it took me years to make those changes, to gain the knowledge that I now have, to have to the perspective change that I've had. It takes time. And there are wounds around money, especially if you grew up in poverty, that you're going to have to heal. You are going to have to change your relationship with money in your journey to build generational wealth. And for me, that doesn't ever look like being like a billionaire or, having some empire with my name on it. Building generational wealth for me means having the money to do what I want to do, to have the money to not work if I would like to not work. You know what I mean? So decide what it looks like for you, but also, take your power back in that area. Because when I first even thought of this, it was scary to me to think that, I might make investments one day. Now I'm trying to diversify my portfolio. Okay. So you can change your relationship with money, and you can heal those money wounds. Is really, you know, why it's important to me to build generational wealth, and why I think it's important for our communities to have a perspective that says I can build generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
That's so real. I think that it's definitely a healing thing, especially when you think about things that are not good for people's mental health as a whole. Not having money to take care of your basic needs, and then not having housing. Those are two huge factors in people's emotional and mental well-being. So like even like say on a micro level, right? You're changing the trajectory of your life, possibly your kids' life, possibly their kids' life. And then on a macro level, we're changing the trajectory of communities. If you know everyone in the community is on a journey for generational wealth as it relates to however they, you know, define that within themselves. You're literally changing the and then even more macro, we're changing the trajectory of society as a whole if everyone is participating in this. So it's literally life changing, future changing. Like it's really the way in which we can define history is
Mm-hmm.
in the ways in which we can take steps to create wealth generationally for ourselves.
And I also want to put out there, because I feel like when we say wealth, people automatically think money. Part of what I'm talking about, yes, we do live in a capitalist society. I did not choose that. I would not have chosen that. Let the record reflect. But we are here. Okay. So, with that being said, wealth building doesn't have to be money.
Mm-mm.
Let that sink in. Wealth building does not have to be money. Create
Exactly.
systems of support, create
Mm-hmm.
community, set up barter systems. I love a good co-op. Okay, so there are so many different ways that we can go about building wealth in our community. We don't have to get trapped in the LLC cycle.
Right. I think I'd love to add a word into it. When we're thinking of wealth, I think that I will want to connect abundance to it. And that
Mm,
can allow us to broaden our perspective when it comes to, oh, wealth building, I think money. Okay, when I think wealth and abundance, that feels like, okay, I want an abundance of joy in my life. I want an abundance of peace in my life. I want an abundance of security in my life. And what does that look like to me? And yes, maybe the monetary aspect is connected to that because, as you said, we live in a capitalist society. So there is a large factor that is drawing our focus. But when we're able to slow down and say, oh, having the ability to have a flexible schedule gives me
mhm.
an abundance of joy. What does that look like? How can I achieve that? That's creating wealth in your life. That's
Yeah.
creating abundance in your life. So it's really moving from the scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset. And that's not all in like that even, and I'll speak to personal experience. Sometimes that even comes down to, the food in the house and, saving the little last bit of something. I can't eat this because I have to savor it. But there's a difference between scarcity and savoring something. Savoring, you're actually experiencing it versus I have to hold on to this because I don't know when I'll get it again. So that's an
Mhm.
active moving through that leads you to abundance.
Mm.
Yes, like
Real.
these wounds are real. Those I had to change so much around my energy around money. Think going from, oh, I chasing the bag and like honestly, these sometimes it's the little phrases too, because I'm like, I got in the
Right.
energy of chasing the bag. I don't chase, I attract. Okay. But I got in that. I was like on my grind. Nope.
Right.
I walk the path of ease. No, like I'm not grinding for nothing. Money is gonna come to me easily. So
Mhm.
like sometimes and a lot of the times it's gonna be an attitude change, a perspective change, a mindset change. And then you're gonna start seeing the opportunities for building wealth in your life. And sometimes they looking back, I'm like, oh, maybe there was, some opportunity, or that could have been an opportunity for me in the past, but my mindset wasn't there. And I didn't see that for what it could have been. And I don't consider that to be a missed opportunity because what's meant for me is for me. I see that as growth because now I know how to recognize that thing, and when my opportunity comes for me, I'm gonna see it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, like, you got to trust yourself in the process.
And that's wealth in and of itself, being able to get to that point where you can trust and where you can have that ease and that that leveling out and slowing of your nervous system, because those cortisol levels, like we all know, right? Okay.
We know.
Me and fight or flight, like,
Mm.
we used to go together pretty bad, but you know, it's definitely a relationship I've been distancing over the years, because being in fight or flight constantly is just so bad for our bodies. But I want to talk about, like, now that we really set the scene, y'all know what generational wealth is for us. Like, y'all know why we think it's important. Now we about to tell y'all what we actually doing in real time as ourselves to build these things. Now, as I told y'all, my journey with generational wealth was very conceptual before. I feel like in my family, the more I learn about our ancestry, the more that I learn that wealth has actually already been in my family. And it moved through a couple of generations. But I feel like we maybe had just some rich people at some points, and then that's why it stopped moving forward. Um, but when I thought of building generational wealth for myself, because I actually didn't grow up with money, I grew up experiencing poverty. I grew up experiencing a parent struggling with addiction, a single mom raising all of her kiddos and going back to school, and, you know, that whole struggle. So when I thought of building generational wealth, it was automatically tied to education, because that's what I had saw. I saw someone go back to school, get their education, and then use that to get better employment and, you know, provide for a household of kiddos. So for me, generational wealth was always tied to education, and I did pursue education as means of building wealth for myself. Now, I won't say that it directly led me to any type of wealth. And that's just me telling my own experience. I don't feel like my education maybe directly led me to any type of wealth, but it definitely led me to the field which I believe that my work is meant to be. And that is where I am right now. I feel like I am in the place that I am meant to be, doing the work that I am meant to do. And I believe that this is the path that will help me to build generational wealth. Standing on healing for my community, standing on the importance of collaboration in my community over competition, and standing on the importance of rejecting, abolishing, and tearing down these systems of oppression that have historically affected my community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
My whole thing is self-love. If this is your first podcast episode, surprise. Self-love. I believe that self-love is going to lead my community to generational wealth.
Absolutely. I would agree with that too, because it's like you said, so much about the mindset of it all. If we don't have a strong inner sense of knowing, sense of self, with self-love directly attached to that, then it makes it a lot more difficult to do pretty much anything in this life. Um, the I'm thinking of the concept that what we see reflected, or what we appreciate in others, what we value in others in our external world, is a reflection of something that's from within. So the light in me sees the light in you. And that also is attached to any of the chaos in our lives that we may come across. That's not necessarily, I've relinquished the need to control things that I can't control. I can't control anyone else's actions. However, I can take notice if I'm noticing a lot more chaos or confusion or anxieties in my surroundings. I do need to take a moment and take a look in the mirror and see am I projecting or reflecting in my world that can clean that up a little bit, because I can't change what anybody else does, but I sure can change what I do, and that's a part of our self-love journey as well. So in my world, very similar. I didn't grow up with wealth. Grew up in poverty. Definitely some money trauma and whatnot in our intergenerational household. I spent some time living with my grandparents as well. And my grandmother, she is an immigrant, and so there's also some added money ideology surrounding that. Now, I learned how to save really well, but in the ways that we were saving, there was scarcity mindset embedded in that. It was very much, we are sewing money into the rug and keeping it under the bed and stashing and hiding some things in different places. And as a kid, I was, even when it was like, here, go buy yourself something for lunch or something like that, so much of me was in this mindset that I don't know when this is coming again, so I'm just going to hold on to it. And now I'm in a space where I've moved to, money is like water. We are also like water. So money flows and circulates. We're not spending. We're not expending or expelling the money. We're not losing it when it goes. It's circulating. I'm circulating money. That's how the economy runs. We're circulating it. So as it goes, it's going to come back. And that's part of the mindset, the self-love, and the manifestation aspect there.
Yes.
That's what I think. That's what I'm gonna sprinkle on this.
Yes. Ashe to everything that you just said, Jinji. You made me remember, because I feel like every family has a money attitude. My family's money attitude was burn, baby, burn. Okay, if you got it, flaunt it, spend that money, baby. Okay, so if I had money, I was not holding on to it. I'm gonna tell you that much.
And see, that's so interesting that you say that, because sometimes there's a little bit of both. Like, I saw members in the family get it and they would not be able to, and to this day, not be able to hold on to it, to the point where that, when you were talking about, I'm learning from different generations exactly what I don't want to do. My grandparents were like, okay, I need to hold on to this. Other generations, not so much. And for me, I was like, well, I got to hold on to this to make sure that we have something, because I know you're not holding on to this. So, whoa. But then I would also have that, there's an emotional aspect to it as well. So you're like, oh, I got a little something. Let me, I need to kind of keep up with the Joneses. I don't, even if I'm going to Ross, I need a new backpack for school, something like that. When I really don't need to be, and circulating money is not a bad thing. But also holding on to is not a bad thing either. It just depends on where we are in the water cycle.
Yes. And the mindset around that, about why are we spending? Why are we holding on to? Is it attached to scarcity, or is it attached to abundance? Like, I'm holding on to this because I know I want to get to a certain point so I can invest it. Or am I holding on to it because I have to, because who knows when more is going to come?
Right.
Absolutely.
And being strategic.
Yes. Kind of finding the balance between those two mindsets of, money burning a hole in my pocket, so I got to spend it, versus, I don't know when it's coming back, so I got to hide it. That's actually been a bit of a part of my journey. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. But that's been a part of my journey. And I found that once you find that balance for yourself, all of that weird energy around money, the angst of it, of holding it, or the that regret that you feel after you immediately spent it when you got it from it burning a hole in your pocket, all that goes away. You spend with confidence and you save with confidence once you have that assurance that you are going to be okay, more is coming, that you can spend with intention, as Marissa was saying. Because when I was in that phase of just spending money because I had it, I was not spending with intention. I would literally, because I love to, I would shop a lot for clothes. That was my thing when I was just spending to spend. I would come home sometimes and be like, no, I don't want to buy this. I don't even like this. Like literally, I would try it on at home and be like, okay, now I know this looked different in the mirror when I was trying it on at the store than how it looked at home. Like there was an emotional cycle attached to my spending that just wasn't even fun. And now when I do what I call planned spending, so if I'm holding my money, it's because it's part of my plan. And if I'm spending my money, it's because it's also a part of my plan. So it's always a good time here. And now I notice that up and down emotional cycle that I was going on with my money is gone. Now it's just ebbing and flowing like it should be. Like this was my like a seaweed, just like that's cool. Just letting the money flow to and through me.
I love what you just said as well. It reminds me of something that I practice or that I love to remind myself every so often as well. When you're doing your planning work, your self-healing work surrounding this, trying on the idea that every single dollar has a job. Some dollars' job is to sit. Some dollars' job is to accumulate. Some dollars' job is to circulate. And then it's less burdensome, dare I say, because I know in the past I would play Russian roulette with my bank account. I would be going somewhere, embarrassed to log into the bank real quick, see what was in there, do a little transfer, sometime like hope it goes through, and be scared though to look at my bank account. And now it's like, hey, money, how you doing? Let's take a look. Not saying that I am at this pinnacle of wealth or anything by any means, but moving through the idea of I'm afraid to look at what's in here to, okay, now I'm looking at the reality in the face and now I can actually navigate what it is that I want to do. And I don't have to worry about buying myself something. There were times, personal experience here, there were times where I was on food stamps, holding on to the government's money and not even buying myself Capri Suns because I don't know, scarcity. So moving from that level to the, you know what, I am going to treat myself to this, acknowledge that I'm treating myself to this and feel confident in that. We want to move through shame of our purchases because that doesn't feel good at all. And then you're not able to enjoy what you're providing yourself because you're providing for yourself too.
That's so real. And it also puts you in a cycle of just negative connotation when it comes to money, like period. No matter
Right.
what you're spending on, is you just don't feel good doing it. And the thing is, like, you can't get an abundance mindset if every dollar that you spend, you're not doing it with that understanding and that expectation that it's coming back to you tenfold.
Right. Absolutely. Because now it's like, girl, I need arch support. I need a new pair of shoes. Go and get the pair of shoes and say, I am so grateful that I am in a space where I can get these shoes. I got myself some, our wise walking shoes, I like to say. Like we see the folks just walk in every day with their very nice orthopedic shoes. Now I didn't get any orthopedic prescribed shoes, but I did get some arch support shoes that I needed. Just a nice little sneaker, not too much. Very, very mindful. But
those orthopedic shoes be so comfortable though.
Right. And I'm like, this is self-care. I'm actively caring for myself because one, I know I needed it. Two, I planned for it and I prepared for it. I know I have it and I went ahead and got it and I can feel good about it. And now when I wear it, I say, thank you, Jinji, for taking care of me.
Yes. Oh, I'm telling you, change your mindset around money and watch everything change. Like, genuinely, for building generational wealth, I think your mindset's the most important thing. I know we're not telling y'all, like, oh, go download this app and start making your investments. That app. Change your mindset.
Right.
Your mindset matters more than any app you're about to use.
Yeah. That's facts.
Yeah, and do diversify your investments.
Right. And
No.
that's the thing. When I'm working with folks too, it's like that's where we start. We start at mindset, and we need to make sure, I'm like, literally, are you in a space where all of your monthly required expenses can be taken care of? If not, we're working on, do you have an emergency fund, high yield savings? Like, start in a space where we're actively healing through money trauma, and then we can get onto the exciting, sexy things that we hear
Yeah.
people all the time.
Yeah,
But we're not jumping in there if we can't swim on this side.
right. And at that point, like your mind isn't dressed appropriately for the event anyway. Like you gotta get
Absolutely.
your mind right.
Yeah.
So I want to talk before we like wrap everything up about the specific healing around this, because I feel like we have been like sprinkling it through this conversation, but I need y'all to explicitly know how healing it
Mm-hmm.
is to change your relationship with money and to start thinking about building generational wealth and to be on a path of building generational wealth. The empowerment, like I really reached out into the world and reclaimed all my power around money,
Right.
all of it. It's
That's
amazing. It's changed everything for me. I don't feel scared about money anymore. And when I
mm-hmm.
tell y'all I genuinely used to be scared, I was avoiding my bank account too, Jinji.
Right.
Like, girl,
No, that was real. That was so real. The transferring of money. I was like, "Ooh, hold on."
look, I was like, wait, when she started
I
talking
just
about
had to.
that,
I just had to let you know, because I know that so many of us have experienced it, but we don't talk about it. So I was like, let me be the one to set the record straight. I'm not
yeah,
sitting over here like I've had it all figured out. Baby, I was scared.
yes,
So,
yes, and you can release that fear, even if you got to do it slowly but surely.
Mhm.
But Genji's thing when she was saying to check your bank account, maybe start there. Maybe
right.
just look at your bank account every day and make an intention around your bank account.
Yeah,
What do you
And
want
then
it to
no
look
maybe,
fear connected to it. I would say
like?
for me, the healing in it, just to go back to your question, was literally what you said of empowering. You are
Mm,
healing and just feeling more empowered, more in control of your circumstance and your future and your life and your mind. You just feel empowered because now this is something that's not crippling. Money can
yeah.
be so crippling for people, and I think that is, going back to those cortisol levels, right? Like we stressed, we pressed, we're it's a crippling feeling to think about money or to act with your money or to even check your bank account. So
Mm-hmm.
like going through the journey of healing, starting with that healing from that financial trauma and
mm-hmm.
just changing your mindset around it. That's the start, right? Of changing your mindset, the start of that healing journey. We got to change how we think about money, change how it feels when we start thinking about money. And then from there you are now empowered to make those next steps in regards to money. Now I'm making my budget. Now I'm checking my bank account and I'm tracking my
Yeah.
spending. Now I'm seeing, oh, okay, I'm cutting out those unnecessary items that I'm buying. Like you said, I'm going to the store and I'm like, now why did I buy the way when I tell y'all that when I started tracking my spending, I realized I had bought the exact same outfit 3 times. Why did I buy the same outfit 3 times?
Yeah.
Right? I just liked the outfit, but I could have liked it once and it was cool. But I wasn't tracking my spending, so I liked it 3 times. So like then we're cutting out those expenses that we don't need. Now we're like, okay, a little bit more money than I thought I had. Now that I'm cutting out these expenses, it's empowering you. You're taking control of your life, taking control of your future. And that's healing. And like I said, we can go from that micro level to that macro level as a society. And it just starts with ourselves and our own relationships, our own mindsets around it.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
terms of the specific activities, like you're saying, Selena, if we start at, like, we're checking our bank account, maybe we also attach a journaling exercise to that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not checking my bank account right when I'm at the grocery store or at the mall ready to check out, because that instills that fear situation, that fear environment as well. Maybe I'm doing it at home in a safe space, and I have my journal next to me, and I just start there. I start by saying, okay, how does this make me feel? Because when I'm writing it down, then I can look back and say, this is how I felt when I was first starting this, looking at my bank account, and now I can see the progression. Now, when I am in a place where I can do my budget, or I am feeling confident about these things, and I see that I have more here, and I understand why I'm doing this, then I feel empowered to, oh, I've planned this spending because I wrote it into my budget, or I'm secure in the fact that I can look at my account, and now I can talk about it with someone. Hey, what are you being paid? Or what did you buy that beautiful outfit for? And it's not I'm digging, or I'm trying to find something out, or some scary thing. It's just, money's just another thing that's around us. It's another tool for us to use, and it doesn't have control over us. We are controlling the money that we come across, or we have a relationship with the money that we come across. And when we have that positive relationship, then our personal, romantic, and business relationships will get better as well.
Yes. And Jinji brought me right to what I was going to tell y'all about, which is money affirmations. And I actually talked about money affirmations a little bit in my affirmations episode on season 2 of the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. Check that out. But I will say that some of the things that Jinji was just saying in those last couple of sentences are actual affirmations that I use. It's very basic. I have a healthy relationship with money. I release any negative attachments that I have to money. Those are 2 that I use. Start as simple as you need to. Money doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
Money was scaring me back in the day, okay?
Saying those affirmations can really help you to get in the mindset too, and to change your mindset. Because the more you say it, the more you feel it, the more you think it, the more it becomes real.
Absolutely. And when I tell you, money has started coming to me so easily ever since I declared it so. Declare it so. So, like, literally, I'm trying to tell y'all, when it comes to building generational wealth, the reason why we're even doing the things that we are doing now is because of how our mindsets have changed over time. None of what I'm doing now, none of the intentionality that I have around money, the freedom that I have around money, my ability to plan and execute like money strategies, all that came from healing. All of that came from me changing my mindset, and none of it was happening for me before I did that work.
Real.
Yeah. Is there anything else that, like, any last word of advice that y'all have for listeners or for the healing community around money, around building generational wealth specifically?
I would just say first, give ourselves grace would be my only last thing. Give yourself grace for what you don't know. Give yourself grace for where you're not at where you want to be. Just give yourself grace for wherever you are. We have to start with that, because especially as Black and brown folks, we don't get any kind of leg up. We start from such a traumatic place, right? So we have to give ourselves grace so that we can start those journeys. And I think that would be my only final thought is, let's start with grace within every step of the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. I'd say, grace, give yourself grace, and ask questions. We don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
Absolutely. Give yourself grace and ask all of the questions when it comes to building generational wealth. I'll also say, seek out resources, because to the point of building generational wealth, there's a lot of Black and brown people who are invested in helping you do that. So find them. Find Jinji. There are people that can help you with that. So,
Yes.
Jinji, Marissa, where can people find y'all in the real world? Where can somebody who's trying to buy a house in Washington find Marissa? If you try and get your finances together or other things, how can you reach Jinji?
Yes. So for me, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at MKG Real Estate _ for Instagram. And feel free to slide into my DMs, ask any questions. If you are needing to get your funds right before you're at the place where you're buying, I'm gonna be getting you over to Jinji. So but again, Grace, we are where we're at, and no matter, you can get to wherever you want to be. You just have to start.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can find me Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Really, if you just type in Jinji Amen Google, it's my name is the same for each of the platforms, so it'll be connected. You'll be able to do a little deep dive there, and yeah, just reach out to me. And I look forward to talking with y'all and answering questions.
Yes.
Jinji, I know you better say Google me.
I'm just saying, right? They have the information. It's just my name. Just.
High key though, I'm like, I have a pretty unique name. If you Google Salenna Green, it's probably gonna be me that comes up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Make it yourself Googleable. Right.
Try to Google yourself and see what pops up. You'll be interested.
Yeah, that's actually fun. But y'all, this has been another episode of the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. I am your host, Salenna Green. I really hope that you heard us with this episode. I really hope that you felt us with this episode. I really hope that you just got something from this, because and actually I'm gonna speak for myself, every single episode is done with intention. Every single episode of the Hot Girls Healing Podcast is done with love for the community. I really don't have a single episode from either season, and I have no intention of continuing in the future without this level of intentionality and love for the community. So I really want to thank you both for being here, for sharing your time and energy with myself and the community here. And community here, thank you so much for coming. And the two of y'all that always listen, I got so much love for y'all. I don't know who you are, but one day.
Thank you so much.
That Hot Girl Healing book, so that you can start your Heart Girl Healing.
I should.
Yes.
And to anyone who's trying to get into journaling, please do find the Self-Love Prompted Journal. Join the conversation online with hashtag Hot Girls Healing. And I'll see you next time.
Yes. Bye.
Since I know you're tired, since I know you're stressed, you were always favored and you were always blessed. It's all about that. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. We better day by day. Hot girls healing. We doing it our way. Hot girls healing. And it goes